I'm Dr. Kristen R. Bromley. This video series, which is part of my online music academy, specifically accompanies note reading books 1 and 2 from my method book series. Like all my books, this selection is available to purchase through Amazon and Google Play. For help, see the links in the description below. In the videos which are part of this specific course, I progress through the lessons in note reading books 1 and 2, explaining and demonstrating concepts and playing each of the songs and exercises contained therein, so you can hear how they sound and play them right along with me. You are of course welcome to view these videos with or without the book, but with the book you can work through all the songs and exercises, and in the process learn all the notes in first position and master the skill of reading written music notation. Alright, let's get to jamming in this week's lesson. Hi there, welcome. So excited to have you joining me for lesson 1. In this lesson, we're going to learn a little bit about notes and theory, and we're going to work on learning the natural notes that are on the top strings, so E, F, and G. And so we'll just go ahead and dive in. So we're going to start with a little bit of that theory, a little bit of the understanding of notes. So we're going to be starting on page 7 and 8, where we have a little bit of the theoretical explanation. As it says on page 7, notes are sort of the building blocks of music. They're the individual pitches or sounds we hear. So one sound, one musical tone, that's a pitch or a note. There are 12 individual sounds or pitches. So with these 12 pitches, 7 are considered natural notes and 5 are considered chromatic in how they fit in between the natural notes. The natural notes have letter names. If we look up here on the board, I had this written out. You also have it explained there on page 7. But our natural notes have a letter name, so corresponding with the alphabet, the letters in the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So the first 7 letters in the alphabet. So I have those up here on the board. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and then it starts over at A. And we can actually go to infinity in either direction, lower or higher. Of course, our ears can only hear so far. Animals can hear some things that we can't hear. So there even comes to a limit, though, to what animals can hear. But in theory, we could extend out in either direction to infinity and beyond. So in between these natural notes, we have the chromatic pitches. These are named for their relationship or their placement in relation to the other natural notes. So we have one in between A and B, and this one could be named A sharp, and the sharp sign looks kind of like a little hashtag or a pound sign. So A sharp or B flat looks like a lowercase b. So B flat, flat means to lower it, and sharp means to raise it. So the pitch that sits in between A and B, we have A sharp or B flat. There isn't one that sits in between B and C. Between C and D we have one though, so it could be called C sharp or D flat, either name will work. And then we have between D and E, we have D sharp or E flat. E and F, there isn't one in between. We have F sharp or G flat between G, G sharp or A flat between G and A, and then we'd start over again with A sharp or B flat if we were going higher. On the guitar, if I start here on the open A string, which is the 5th string, I just go up one fret at a time and I'm going to hit each one of these. So A sharp or B flat, B, C, C sharp or D flat, D sharp or E flat, E, F sharp or G flat, G sharp or A flat, and then it starts over A, and I could keep going. A sharp or B flat, B, C sharp or D flat, D sharp or E flat, E, F sharp or G flat, G, and that's all the higher I can go on that string on this guitar. Each one of these strings will progress like that. Now, if you're familiar with a piano, the white keys are the natural notes. And then the black keys that sit in between, that sit up a little bit higher and above and in between those white keys, those are the chromatic pitches. So we're going to be learning all of these, but as we get started with guitar, we're just going to be working on the natural pitches first. So we're going to learn where all those are located down here in first position. One of the tricks on the guitar is that some of these pitches repeat. So this open E I can play on the 2nd string, the 3rd string, the 4th string, the 5th string, and if I cheat with harmonics, I can play it on the 6th string too. That makes reading on the guitar really tricky. But when we're in first position or open position, which means that our hand is down here at the bottom of the neck with our index in the 1st fret, our middle in the 2nd, our ring in the 3rd, and our pinky in the 4th, and we're using the open strings, we can actually eliminate those doublings except in one case, and that's between the open B string and the 4th fret of the 3rd string. So if I go E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, open A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp. Then I only had one place where I actually could have played the note twice, and I didn't do it. I didn't play at the 4th fret on the 3rd string, but I could have played that same note. So that makes learning to read melodies and learning to play music on the guitar a lot easier, because we were only going to have one place to play a particular note. Now, I just did that as a demonstration. You might have thought, wow, that was way too fast. I didn't catch all that. Where are all those notes again? You don't need to worry about that. As we get started, we're just going to be worrying about 2 to 3 notes at a time. We're going to be learning where the natural pitches are on each of these strings contained within the first 4 frets. After we go through all the strings and learn where the natural notes are, we're going to go back and learn where the chromatic ones are. But before we can start reading music on the guitar, we need to talk about how we actually read notated music. So we have something called a staff. Now in the book you have an example of just the 5 lines. So 5 lines and 4 spaces creates a staff. And each one of the lines and spaces on that staff represents one of our pitches. Now there are a lot of different instruments that read written notation, and they're in different ranges. And so we have something called a clef sign. And you can see there on page 7 an example of a treble clef sign and a bass clef sign. On guitar we usually, like almost all the time, read music with the treble clef. So I have that written here, the G clef, with the notes on the treble clef. If you'd like to know about the notes on the bass clef, you can read there on pages 7 and 8 and discover about that. But we're just going to focus on what we actually read on the guitar. So each one of these lines and each one of these spaces represents a pitch. The lines, starting on the bottom, we have E, G, B, D, F. So it's really going every other note. And there's different acronyms that people have used throughout the years to remember what these are. One that I grew up with was "Every good boy deserves fudge." Stuck in my mind because I thought the girls deserved some fudge too. But every good boy deserves fudge. E, G, B, D, F. The spaces in between are pretty easy. They spell the word face. So we have F, A, C, E. Now I've also added up here on the board that we have a D below the staff, it's down under the staff, and G up on top of the staff, because we're going to be working on those notes within the first few lessons. And so I wanted to show there how this goes. Now these go in alphabetical order, and as we go higher on the staff, they go higher in pitch. So we have D down below the staff, then E, the lowest first line, F, G the next line, A the next space, B the next line, C the next space, D the next line, E the next space, F the next line, G the next space. And if we have notes, and we do on the guitar, that extend beyond that, we're going to use ledger lines, little teeny lines that will help us identify where we are above the staff or below the staff. So they'll sit there with the note. We're not going to really talk about that today. We'll worry about that when we get into notes that use ledger lines. But I wanted to introduce us to where these pitches are. So as we're reading music, we're going to have to be identifying what pitch is being written here on the staff, and then we're going to have to know where to play it on the guitar. If a pitch is a sharp or a flat, so I know you're probably wondering, or I hope maybe you're wondering, where are the sharps and flats? How do we indicate those? Well, we use the sharp sign or the flat sign. When you have a sharp sign or a flat sign sitting next to a pitch, it tells us that it's sharp or flat. We're going to learn about that as we get into notes with sharps and flats later on too. But our sharp sign and our flat sign are written here as examples. Okay, so the next thing we have to look at are the shapes of the notes that tell us how long to hold a note for. So there's really two main aspects to a melody. One is what are the notes being played, or what are the pitches being played, and the other is how long are each of those pitches being held for. What's the rhythm of the song? A melody is distinguished by that rhythm and the pitches in combination together, not just one and not just the other. Of course, if we combine more than one pitch together, we create chords. Now in this book, we're not focused on chords. If you want to learn how to play chords, great. It's a great thing to do. You really should check out Chords and Harmony books 1 and 2. That's the place to go for learning to play chords on the guitar. Strumming, singing, finger plucking chords, all types of chords on the guitar. That's the place to go to get going on learning to play chords. And we use chords to accompany ourselves when we're singing or to accompany somebody else singing or playing a melody. But in this book, we're focused on learning to read written notation and play melodies on the guitar. All right, so we're going to take a look at the rhythm next. Okay, so let's take a look at the rhythm. So what happens is we have a note shape, and whatever line or space that's sitting on is telling us what note to play and how long to play that note for. So, as we look up here on the board, and this is the same as what you have there on page 8, right in the middle of the page. But our whole note looks like sort of an oval-shaped open circle. And it's whole. And what we mean in music when we say whole note is that it's worth 4 counts. And of course we could be going at different tempos, but whatever tempo, however fast or slow we're going at, it's going to get 4 equal durations of that. So like 1, 2, 3, 4 at that tempo, or 1, 2, 3, 4 at a faster tempo, and we just count it out just like that. Half notes are worth half the value of a whole note, and they're distinguished by the addition of a stem. So the stem can point down or it can point up, it doesn't matter, but we have a stem, or this line that extends out from our oval. It's worth 2 counts. And then we have quarter notes, which look just like half notes, only that oval is filled in solid, and with the stem extending up or down. And it's worth 1 count. So these are the rhythmic values that we're going to be starting with. There are, of course, other rhythmic values, but we're going to learn about them as we progress through the book. So the other thing we need to know about, though, is measures. So you have an example right there on the page. I've drawn a staff with a few measures. Measures are marked by vertical lines. And what happens is the space in between the 2 lines is going to have an equal number of beats that will exist, or counts that will exist between those 2 lines. The most common one that we see, or common time, is to have 4 beats or 4 counts per bar. What tells us that is the time signature. So I've written 2 time signatures down here. 4/4 is the example that you have there on page 8. The time signature will sit right next to the clef at the beginning of a song or a melody. And so 4/4, what happens with these time signatures is that the number on top tells us how many counts are going to be in that measure. And then the bottom line tells us which note is going to equal, so to speak, 1 count. So it's usually right now, and most of the time, a 4. Which represents our quarter note. So a whole note would be represented by the number 1, a half note by the number 2, a quarter note by the number 4. And those are the only ones that we know of now, but later we'll learn about 8th notes, for example, and that would be represented by an 8. Or 16th note represented by a 16. Or a 32nd note represented by a 32. And those change things up, but we're just looking at how we're going to see things here at the beginning. So 4/4. So this tells us how many of these we're going to have per measure, so to speak. The top number tells us how many of the bottom number we're going to have per measure, or the rhythmic equivalent. So 4 quarter notes per measure, 3 quarter notes per measure. If it said 2/2 or something, we'd have 2 half notes per measure. 3/1, we'd have 3 whole notes per measure, or the rhythmic equivalent. So what we mean by the rhythmic equivalent is, if we're going to have 4 quarter notes per measure, we could have 1 whole note. We could have 2 half notes. We could have a half note and 2 quarter notes. that sort of thing. So it's going to equal the rhythmic equivalent. Those are broken up into measures. And that helps us read music, and it's also an important part of the rhythmic structure or underlying groove or sort of meter feel of that melody or song. Alright, so now that we have that, let's take a look at page 9 and practice a little bit. When we're doing rhythm, especially at first, it can really help to count the beats while we're playing the rhythm. So it helps us keep track of these measures. It also helps us play things where they go. We have here notes just written on the center line. We know that could be a B pitch, but it really doesn't matter. We're not worried about what pitch we're plucking at the moment. That's why they're just all sitting on the B line. So we're going to go ahead and just pluck the top string. Now when we're plucking a string, you might want to use your thumb, and that's okay. I'm going to show us how to use the pick. We talked about holding a pick in the last introductory part of this book. But if we're using our thumb, the idea is that we're going to just brush the string off this inside part, and we just push against the string and pluck it down. And so it's that simple. It all comes from the thumb, and you can do it. If we were doing classical technique, the goal would be to have it all come from this joint and not have a little waving thumb from the smaller joint there. But we're just going to pluck down just like so. Now, in holding the pick, as you recall, we curl our fingers back and our thumb sits right on top of the side. And then the pick just sits in there as an extension of the thumb. So just a little bit sticking out, and I can pluck that string. I'm going to be plucking from the wrist, and I'm going to be doing something called planting of the wrist. So, or anchoring of the wrist. So I'm going to be anchoring the wrist by sitting it back on my bridge. Now I don't want to mute the strings as I do it, so I'm going to be high enough that I'm not on top of that string, but I'm not muting it, but I can play it and let my wrist just anchor there and feel secure, and it's just all in the wrist, this plucking motion. So just pluck with me. Just keep plucking down. Just do repeated down plucks here for a moment. I assume it's great. If not, it'll get there over time. Okay, so then on page 9 we have this where it's explaining counting. We're going to play through this counting the beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're just going to continue to count those beats, but we're going to pluck where the rhythmic notes happen. So we're going to have, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I let the pitch ring its full duration. I continue to count the beats, and then I'm going to pluck the next one where it happens. Let's go ahead and try it. So you got 1, 2, ready, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, and there we are. Now hopefully that gives you a little bit of introduction into how long these values are going to last for, and we're going to be using these as we start learning to play notes on the guitar. So the next thing we need to do is see how tablature diagrams work, which are there at the bottom of page 9. This is going to be a useful tool because as we progress through the book, each of the note locations are going to be written out on a tablature diagram, which is going to tell us where to put our hands, where to put our fingers to play those notes. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so here we are on page 9 with an explanation of our tablature diagrams. So I have one drawn here on the board with a little bit of extra stuff to try and help us orient ourselves. So what we have with a tablature diagram is it's basically a diagram of the neck and the strings. So we have one sitting right here. I've drawn up above it the headstock, so this part of the guitar, to show us that that's where the headstock would be as we're looking at this on our diagram, and the body of the guitar is down here. So my guitar lines up just like so. And if you're looking at it at the page, you actually would be staring straight at your guitar, just like so. Okay, these big spaces, these represent the frets. So these bars would be the fret bars. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. You might have more, like you could have a diagram that has 5 frets or 6 frets. You also might have less. You might just have 3. It's kind of standard to only have 3. Then we have the strings. So before I go on to the strings, just a reminder that frets start fret 1 down here by the nut and by the headstock, and then they just go numerically all the way until we run out of space. So the higher the number, the closer we are to the body of the guitar. On the frets, or on the strings now. So you got string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You might remember from the introduction part of this book that string 1 is the highest string. It's also the smallest string, so the smallest number equals the smallest string. String 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Biggest string, biggest number. Lowest string is the biggest number. So our strings 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's kind of counterintuitive, I've noticed, as teaching over the years. We want to call string 1 the one that's like closest to our head or something, but it's actually string 6, and that high one is string 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we've got our frets. So what happens is we'll have a dot or something drawn on the staff telling us where to put our fingers, or an open circle. So I'm going to look at the 2 examples that would kind of tell us what to do here. So on this first one on the left, which is just like one you've got there on page 9, it's got an open circle or a 0 up above. This is telling us that we're on string 4 and that it's played with 0 frets, so it's open. So we just play that open 4th string. That's what that would tell us to do. If one has a dot drawn on, like this example to the right, which is drawn here at the 2nd fret of the 2nd string, I'd have to find my 2nd string, find my 2nd fret, and I'd be playing that one there. Now up above on these, we're going to see a number telling us which finger to use. So here is a little key for what fingers represent what. You've got a picture there showing you on your hand. 0, no fingers, no frets. So open, that would be the other way we'd see that. We just play that string without anything on. We saw that with this example. The number 1 represents the index finger. Number 2, the middle finger. Number 3, the ring finger. And number 4 is the pinky. Now for correct fingerings, what we want to be doing is playing the notes that fall in fret 1 with our index finger, or finger 1. We want to play the notes that fall in the 2nd fret with our middle finger, or finger 2. We want to play the notes that fall in the 3rd fret with our ring finger, or finger 3, and we want to play the notes that fall in the 4th fret with our pinky, or our finger 4. So it's that simple. 1, 2, 3, 4. As we're setting up our fingers, we want to put them as close to the frets as we possibly can without actually touching them. If we get on top of them, we get a little bit of a buzz. If we get back too far, we'll probably get a buzz too. It's harder to push down. I've been playing for a long time, so I can push down way back there and actually get the pitch to ring. It's harder on my finger, but we're going to try and set it a millimeter or 2. We're just going to sit right behind that fret bar with our fingers. The other goal is to set our fingers on the tips as much as we can. So not flat fingered back here, but up on the tips. That helps us get a better tone, and it's going to be easier. My thumb is sitting behind the neck somewhere around the second fret. Sometimes it will wrap around a little bit down here in first position, so you might see it come up some just by how we're playing. The important thing with the left hand is that we don't create some weird bend in the wrist. We just want a nice relaxed arm, and then our hand, nice relaxed arm, and then a bend at the elbow that brings our hand up to a nice kind of straight, natural curvature to our wrist. Nothing crazy that would end up causing pain if we did it for a long time. We want to try and be as relaxed as can. Depending on where your guitar neck is sitting, that might mean that you have a little bit of the thumb coming up over the neck or showing, and it also might not. If I have my guitar neck high enough, I kind of coming up from below it. A little bit of space between the neck and this part of the hand is good, and then we have on on our tips. Okay, so we want to flip over to page 10 now and get started with playing the notes E, F, and G. Okay, so here we are on page 10, ready to learn some pitches. In this lesson, we're going to be learning the notes on the top string, or the E string. So I've got them drawn here up on the board. We have E, which sits on the top space. Remember, the spaces, we spell the word face, F-A-C-E. So the E sits on that top space. On the guitar, we play that E note on the open top string, or the open first string. So just open, no fingers, and we play that open E. You can play that with me. Our F note sits on the top line, and it's at the first fret of that top string, and we're going to play it with our index finger. We're going to set our index finger on the tip, just behind the fret bar, and we're going to play F, just like so. So we got F. You can play that one with me. And then we have G. G sits at the third fret on that top string. We're going to use our ring finger. So the G sitting on top of the staff. Us girls that want to be on top of the world. It's a way to remember that if you don't have another way. So G sits on top. So we got the open E, first fret F, G up there at the third fret. All right, let's take a look at exercise number 1. We're going to play these notes with just whole notes. So 4 counts per note. So we're going to go 1, 2, ready, and we have E, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's do number 2. This one mostly has half notes. So we got 1, 2, ready, and we have E, 2, E, 2, F, 2, F, 2, G, 2, G, 2, F, 2, E, 2, F, 2, G, 2, F, 2, E, 2, G, 2, E, 2, E, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's go over to page 11 and do number 3. This one has quarter notes mainly. So you have 1, 2, ready, and we have E, 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 F, 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 G, 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 F, F, E, 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 F, G, F, E, E, G, G, F, E, F, G, E, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's do number 4. Now with number 4, it's going to change up what pitches are being played a little bit more. So hopefully it's a fun challenge for you. You got 1, 2, ready, and E, F, G, F, E, E, G, G, F, E, F, E, G, F, G, F, E, F, G, F, E, F, G, F, E, G, F, G, E, 2, E, 4. All right, hopefully that was fun. Now you might be noticing that I'm saying the names of the pitches as we're playing them. That could actually really help you if you do that as well. It can help you memorize or learn these pitches faster, ingrain into our minds to recognize the pitch on the page and where we play it on the guitar. So it's helpful. I'm saying it as a helpful tool to you in helping you hear that as we're playing it. If you say it out loud, it may help you learn them faster as well. All right, we get to do number 5. This one has a name, the E string pearls. So our first song, there's not a lot of songs, or any song really that I know of that's out there that's recognizable to us that only uses 3 notes. So we get some that I've written here with really interesting titles. So we got E string pearls, and this one's going to change up the rhythm as well as the pitch. So here we go. We got 1, 2, ready, and E, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, F, 2, E, 2, G, F, E, 2, G, 2, F, 2, G, F, E, 2, F, E, G, 2, F, E, F, G, F, 2, E, 2, 3, 4, F, G, F, E, F, E, G, F, E, 2, 3, 4. Great! I assume it's great. We'll hope it's great. Let's flip on over to page 12, and we'll do number 6, stuck in the middle. So, here we go. 1, 2, ready, and we have E, 2, E, 2, F, G, F, G, E, 2, E, 2, G, F, G, F, E, F, G, F, G, E, F, E, G, E, F, E, G, 2, G, 2, F, 2, F, 2, E, E, G, G, F, E, F, G, F, E, G, F, E, 2, G, 2, F, 2, G, 2, F, E, G, F, E, 2, 3, 4. All right, and we'll do the last one, number 7, equally divided. So you got 1, 2, ready, and E, F, G, F, E, 2, E, 2, F, F, G, F, E, 2, E, 2, G, F, G, F, E, F, G, F, E, F, E, F, E, 2, 3, 4, G, F, G, E, G, E, G, F, F, G, F, E, E, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, F, 2, E, 2, G, 2, F, 2, G, 2, E, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that wraps us up for this lesson. Now, if this is really easy for you, great, go on to lesson 2. If you're still struggling, you can repeat these as many times as you want. You can play them along with me as many times as you need to. If a part is particularly challenging for you, maybe that first measure of number 7 was just throwing you for a loop, then you just want to practice that over and over until you get just that much down. And then you do it again until you've got it, and then you play through and you find the next tricky spot. So we're doing something right now called sight reading. We're just playing all the way through, trying to nail it as best we can. It's kind of like playing Guitar Hero, only real Guitar Hero. You get to play right along with me, trying to get as many of them right as you can. And I'm getting them all right, but I've been doing this for a little while, so. But you can play right along with me and get as many right as you can, but then we want to go back and work on the spots that tripped us up, get those well, and then play it again. And if we do that, it's going to ingrain this into us that much faster. We want to create super highways down our nervous system. So our brain has to think of what the note is, think of how to play the note, tell us how to play it. It's got to travel down our nerves, tell our fingers to do it. So the more that we do it, the faster that process comes. It's kind of like the pioneers heading across the plains, forging their own paths. The next ones that came behind could follow those paths. Later, as time went on, we get roads created, then they're paved roads, then we've got highways, then we've got freeways, and we can go faster down those freeways without interruptions. The more we do it accurately, playing each note accurately, the more it creates those superhighway freeways through our nervous system, the faster we're able to get at playing these melodies and notes correctly. So you want to practice those parts and get it comfortable and then go on. So in the next lesson, which is going to be great, we're going to add the notes on the B string. So B, C, and D. Once we do, we'll actually be able to play some melodies that are recognizable to us. So I'll see you in that next one. Take care. Have fun playing the guitar. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For help with other guitar playing skills, check out more of my method books and the numerous lessons available as part of my online academy here on YouTube. You can find more information about me and my products at kristenbromley.com. Take care.